What a day to be alive. Welcome to Rise Up with Rick. We are passionate about helping you extract the most out of every day and exploring and enhancing all things physical, mental and emotional well-being and performance. We are brought to you by runners.com. That's runnez.com, as well as rickmirabella.com. Radio, let's launch now.
G'day and welcome to Rise Up with Rick. Oh yeah, my guest today. I love this fella. I've known him a very long time and he's done it all in football. Premiership Australian rules football for those out of Australia. Premiership player with the Melbourne Demons in 2021. All Australian. He has done it all in football as far as leadership and gone through the highs and the lows, and his story is an amazing one, and I've seen it close hand, especially early days, the work rate, and the harder you work, the luckier you get, and it couldn't happen to a better bloke what you've done in life. And I welcome Mick Hibberd.
What a great intro, mate.
Yeah,
Thank you. It's very nice.
All Australian. We'll take the piss today. We'll have a chat. We'll have a laugh, and we'll talk about your story, great man. Look, the story I mentioned off the top is unique. It's always unique to you, but you've done a lot of stuff, and sometimes not the traditional way, which I love. And you're still doing amazing things, and your new life's just beginning. Where do we find you right now, great man?
Well, I'm 34 years old. I've got 2 young kids, married. I live in Carnegie, which is near Caulfield. Anyone that doesn't know, I'm about to join the fire brigade. So
congratulations! Yeah. This is a very new development.
Yeah.
So well done, Pig.
So I'll start recruits in about a month. I retired last September. I took about 5 months off, spending quality time with the family, which they deserve, because being a footballer, it's pretty time consuming, so I'm really enjoying that, and I'm looking forward to getting in the fire brigade. And my young kids, so I've got a 3.5-year-old Sunday who we spoke off air, is severely autistic, so she warrants a lot of attention and needs quality time with mum and dad, so hence the 5 months off. And my 1.5-year-old Cleo, who's just starting to tear the house up now. So no, I love being a dad, and I'm excited to be a fiery, but I'm rapt to be retired anyway. I don't know if I could keep doing it what I was doing. So
we'll talk about
thanks
that.
for having me on.
Oh, mate, I love you. We've known each other a long time. I really, look, just such a genuine person, and I'm really happy that you're at this stage in your family life, like with your beautiful wife and 2 beautiful daughters, and then this new career, because it's perfect for you. Like, you've always been. I mentioned leadership off the cuff. You've always been a natural leader, but leading on the field and off the field with the banter and humour and good times. So I reckon the Fireys will be perfect for you. Stay fit, stay hard, serve the community, love people, and get around your team.
Yeah, well, I think that was a real push for me. While I was playing footy, everyone's always talking about afterlife footy, and while you're in it, you never think it's going to end, so you always think you're going to play forever, but there is the thing in the back of your mind going, what am I going to do? And I actually didn't know for a long time. I thought I was going to stay in footy, maybe coaching, player development, welfare or something. There's a lot of jobs these days in a football club, but a good mate of mine, Tate Pears, and Courtney Johns as well, who were at Essendon, they're in the fire brigade, and they just say they've never worked a day in their life since they've been in. They love it that much, and similar characteristics to those guys. I want to help people, want to serve the community, but to have a job that I'd be proud of. And I kind of see like the fire station, as similar to a locker room. You've got people in there. You similar goals. You're working in a team to achieve the same thing, and the similarities to football seem like I would transition pretty well into the fire service. So, yeah, I am excited about that.
I love it, mate. I love it. Now, it's good to have that. Like, you've not long retired, by the way, so well done. Obviously, spending quality time with family, number one, but it's not often that people are aware enough to make that transition, like post-professional sporting career. So kudos to you. You mentioned the retirement. Well, I want to work right back in a minute. But when did you know? We're not to date this, but we're 2024. When did you know last season, 23, that you probably were done? Because you are young. You're still very young.
I mean, when it comes to AFL footy, I think when you hit 30. You kind of sense that there's young guys coming through, and your time is limited. I ended up getting to nearly 34. But when I was 32, I think in 2022, year after the Premiership, I did about 6 calves within 12 weeks, and it was early in the year. One in the pre-season, then I just kept redoing my calf, and I thought that would be my last year. And luckily for me, I ended up getting on top of it and finishing off the year quite well.
Very strong.
That season. So I kind of felt like I owed myself to try and have one more half-decent year and finish off on a high. And so I knew leading into that pre-season it was going to probably be my last year. I was on 1-year deals for, I think, 4 years. Every year.
Good to play on the edge.
Yeah. It was good in a way. You definitely try to get the most out of yourself if you wanted to keep playing. But in my last year, I was just trying to enjoy it as much as I could, because deep down I knew it was going to be. I was going through the Fire East process, and it's a lengthy process that 13 steps, and it went on for about a year. So once I thought I was going to get into that, that was probably the nail in the coffin. I kind of always wanted to go out with a little bit of run in my legs. I probably could have kept playing but then I kind of know it in myself. Like, I would have probably been struck down by injuries. You put on the weight a bit easier when you get into your mid-30s, and I kind of wanted to go with a little bit left in the tank, and I kind of felt like I did that. So
really well said, really well spoken. Number one, number two, really self-aware, mate. At such a young man to be able to pull that out and know that your awareness, every day. Yeah, I'm just going to soak this up, just in case it is more like, because we often fly by the seat of our pants and are in our own heads. But you've come a long way and through that, and I reckon that makes you the man you are today. Played a lot of good football, mate. Premiership obviously being the highlight in 2021. Lots of Victorians, Peninsula people were very proud of you there. But all Australian, like I mentioned, just prolific ball winner, tough as absolute nails, and elite by foot. Very quick too, underrated speed, I reckon. Very good closing speed, and aerially just as strong as ever, and thirst for the contest is elite. Where did all this begin? Now, we come from the same postcode, 3912, Summit Group. Where did it all begin for young Mick Hibberd?
I guess the one thing I always prided myself on and wanted to make sure I brought every week was my competitiveness, and you know me well, and we grew up together, and my brother had a big part to do with that. Everything was a competition. Even my old man to a point as well. Like he made sure we were competing for everything, and the people you surround yourself with, your mates. That's just kind of who I am by nature, and when you become a competitor, you want to be the best at everything you do, and the skills and stuff. That's just from hard work, working on things consistently. I think maybe when I was 18, I probably wasn't a great kick, but one thing I just kept working on it. That was probably something that I needed to work on to get drafted. My running as well, which you helped me with. You can be honest and say I wasn't a great runner, but that's something I just kept working on, especially when I got to the AFL. You have no choice. You'll be chewed up and spat out pretty quick if you can't run. It's a pretty brutal sport for running. But the one thing is, I just always wanted to compete. I hated losing, and I wanted to be the best teammate I could be. I had this thing where I just hated letting people down, and if I had a bad game when I was a kid, I felt like I'd let Dad down or my brother down, and I kind of every contest I knew when I was in the AFL, if I pulled out, I knew my brother was watching. I was like, I don't want to let him down, don't want him to think I'm soft, and my dad don't want my dad to think I'm soft, and I didn't want to let my teammates down as well. And I think having that mentality of not wanting to let my teammates down made me a really good teammate, and I forged out a 13-year career of being a decent teammate.
Decent teammate. The thirst for the contest and the competitiveness, which probably is absolutely your trademark and your one wood. Growing up in Summy, the competitiveness and the very much the aggressive nature at the contest and the Sharon. Some of the Blues growing up, there would have been some good fights in the Hibberd household, no doubt.
Yeah, my brother was 3.5 years older, and as I said, you know him well. He was mad, so I was always
genuine mad.
Yeah, I was always made a front like I wasn't scared of him, but deep down
Shit
I was.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Shit
I think
yourself.
I wasn't the only one in the town either.
No one, everyone. A beautiful man, but very, very good with his fists.
Yeah, and So we had this. It was like an unwritten rule: we'd never punch each other in the face. But there's a lot of wrestling. And we used to get boxing gloves on Christmas because that was the time we could punch each other in the head. So every year we'd ask for helmets and boxing gloves. And I think one year I think I ended up in a bad way. So Dad stopped that pretty quick.
Jeffrey, so I imagine this is the thing. Like, this is the top. This beautiful family, just the most beautiful hearts. All they wanted under the Christmas tree, though, boxing gloves and a helmet. Just give me, hey, Mum, just don't worry, Santa, all I want is boxing gloves so I can belt the shit out of me brother and try to just maybe get a few in there.
Yeah, and we'd bring the mates over and stuff in the backyard, and over the course of time, ended up being pretty good because my brother was giving me a touch-up for so many years, and then he'd bring my mates over and they'd want a piece, and then
you touch them up.
Yeah, give them a touch up. So it's I mean, that's not fun for everyone, but that was what we found fun, and that was the competitive. That's just competing, always wanting to win, whether it was a scrap in the backyard with my brother or markers up at the school or footy training. It was just always, everything was competing.
I love it, and it makes you who you are, mate.
Yeah.
It might have been a Somerville thing. We used to video in the old VC. We used to get in my garage with gloves and just belt the shit out of each other, which not good. Like, no one would do it now.
Nah.
But we used to video them in the old school VCR with craziness, really, and often I was on the receiving end of many. Now, I wouldn't have wanted to be a board game in the Hibberd household as well. It would have just ended.
Too much cheating.
No, too much cheating. Now, Somerville, we mentioned a couple of times, but there's a lot of people out of Australia here. So it's down the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria. Mick was always I'll talk for you, mate, always an exceptional footballer. But the thing that comes about is that team and the team ethos and the team mate. Now, you've said you wanted to not let anyone down, but you've still got to have the authenticity and the soul, the deep soul, and you've always had that to actually care. The care, that's not about it. That's just about caring for people, and you've always had that through your growing up days. Did you know what you wanted to do? Like, when did you think, well, maybe I could actually pursue this? Because you didn't come into the AFL system the same way, and we'll talk about that because that's really important for kids out there. 14, 15, when did you think, well, I'm pretty good at this game?
I think earlier than that, to be honest,
good.
Without being...
no, it's good.
Without being too up myself. I think under 11, under 11s, I'd win the league best and fairest. 12s, I'd win the league and the goal kickings, and I thought, I'm pretty good, and had people around me telling me I was pretty good. I got to 14, 15 when I started getting into the rep teams and stuff, and I started realising, hold on, there's some good players out there as well, and I've got a bit of work to do. I think because I was playing against, I was in my local team, I was the captain, I was kicking goals, getting votes, and but once I stood up to under 16 Stingrays, I realised there's a shitload of me out there, just around the corner, whether it was in Frankston or Dandenong, Preston. There was a lot of players better than me, and I found out the hard way. So I think I started not making the Stingrays teams, and I only played Stingrays in my top age at under 18s, and they threw me back, and it was I remember playing a wing or a half forward, and I was always a mid forward growing up. And then I remember thinking I'm probably not good enough at this comp to play in those positions. And top age 18s, my coach threw me in the back line, I think, because he saw a competitor that hated losing. And that's where I started playing the back line, where I started flourishing, and playing some good footy. And under 18s at Stingrays, I had a pretty good year. I think I came fourth in the best and fairest after not only playing 8 games. So
some bad groins.
Osteitis pubis, yeah. And I thought I was a rookie chance off a few games. I think we played in the grand final and we lost by about 80 points. Still side bottom kicked 10 that game.
That night game.
Yeah, and I had 25 touches or something like that.
Not bad. Eddie had on a grand final.
Yeah, and the next best in our team was 18. So I was like, maybe I'm a chance to get a rookie. Wasn't to be. It was probably really good, a good thing that happened to me in the end, because went back to the VFL, had a really good year in my first year as a half back and made team of the year, and I thought I'd be a chance that year. but it wasn't to be. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because I was going out with my mates and drinking a lot. I wasn't looking after my body. I remember having a conversation. You might know Marcus Morigliani. He was rookie the year before me to Essendon. I played at Frankston with him, and when I thought I was going to get drafted, and he put a program for me, with swimming and running, and I said, all right, well, this is the 1 year. If I don't get drafted this year, at least I know I've put my head on the pillow and given it everything. Even though I thought, it was a chance to anyway, I knuckled down, got really fit, and had a good year in the VFL, and I was lucky Essendon picked me up.
You won the Fothergill round medal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got these long dreadlocks, a bit of blonde peroxide.
Yeah.
It was magnificent. And I remember me and you in this time were doing a bit as well. So this was the period where you said, I just want to throw the kitchen sink at this.
Yeah.
And you left no stone unturned. Like you mentioned before, aerobic power, probably not your one wood, but you worked really hard on it. And I remember doing lots of reps. I think we in the gym as well, but lots of reps and a few hills and 1K reps and the like. But you just got yourself. Mick was still really young. Like you weren't. You were just 20, barely 20.
Yeah, I was 20.
Driving forklifts.
Driving forklifts. Now I probably didn't mention it before. I do remember training with you before the state combine.
Oh yes.
And we were running up Oliver's Hill, and I was like, how can someone be this fit? I just remember watching your little calves running up this hill, and still to this day, I remember, because we were training for the state combine.
Yeah, I remember the combine.
I ran a really good 20, and I still hadn't beaten the test, the beep test, what we trained for that time. So
fair income.
Yeah, so that was my best beep test.
That's amazing, mate. That's off the cut. Yeah, back in 2010.
Yeah, and we did a couple more years at Essendon after that with beep tests, and I still didn't beat that time.
Oh, that's awesome, Mick.
Anyone training with Rick, he's the man.
I didn't have time to say that either. Well, I do remember those days, because I was pretty invested. I was really passionate about. I knew you deserved it, and I just don't. I want to see. We always want to see people who deserve. Look, no, he worked his ass off, and we knew he had all the competitiveness on a Saturday, but just putting those little bits of professionalism in place.
Yep.
And talking to you now, you're just a seasoned professional, 14 years out of in the system, but. Back then, talks with Riggo and other coaches, no doubt, and obviously doing a bit with myself and others. Like going into that rookie draft, it was the rookie draft, wasn't it, Bombers? When did you know you were going to go, or did you have to wait?
It was so. I thought I was a chance to get drafted. I quit my job, funnily enough, backing myself in to get drafted, and the rookie draft was about 10 days after the actual draft, and so I was without a job for 10 days. And and then I didn't have many calls, but GWS were coming into the competition at that stage, and they had the first 8 rookie picks, and I got myself a manager, and he sent around a lot of film to all the clubs, and Essendon was still on the radar a little bit, because I'd spoke to him the year before. Riga went to them. Shannon Grant, who coached me at Frankston, was an assistant coach there. He was just kept on telling me, you got to pick this guy, but it was never guaranteed. I remember my manager telling Essendon, if you don't pick him with your first pre-season pick, which was a 2-year deal at the time. It was just before, it was the same day of the rookie draft, but there was only 4 pre-season picks. I think Ben Cousins might have been one as well, and Nathan Ablett. Essendon had one of those picks. They said, if you don't pick him, he's going to GWS, which I think was a complete lie. I'm not too sure, but
he bluffed his way well.
It was, it was what happened. But I remember going to training. They got invited to go to Essendon training 3 days before the draft. It was, hadn't been training much. We went on a footy trip to with Frankston.
You'd done all the combine.
I'd done all the
stuff you had to get fit for.
I'd done it, and I'd taken probably a month off, and I thought, there's not, I'm either going to get drafted. I'm not going to need to train right now. I was still running a little bit, but not too much. And I trained on the Friday at the club and had a blinder. Like, it was all skill-based drills, and I'm hitting targets. And I remember Hurdy saying after the fact that our best trainer is a bloke that's not even on our list.
Wow. But, you remember that? That's amazing.
Well, he said that to after a month after or whatever. But the next day they had a run at the Tan, and they invited me to do that. That was on a Saturday, and I was like, yeah, of course I'm not going to turn this down. And they put me in the the grade they A, B, C, D, and E. The A's are the best runners. The E's are the slugs at the back. And they put me in the C group. It was David Zarakis, Jake Melksham, Winderlick, Brent Prismal, really big guys.
Some nice movers.
Very good. And
in the system
they're like,
already.
you think you'll be okay with C? And me being stubborn
Competitive.
and competitive. I'm like, of course I will be.
Oh, no. Coming off Dolphins footy trips, they know how to do a footy trip.
Yeah. And I remember it was 2 800s, 4 400s, 8 200s. And I think after I was halfway through the second 800, so I was only not even a kilometre in. I was about 60 metres behind my group, and Bruce Reid, the late great Bruce Reid, he just pulled me apart. He said, "Mate, if you keep running, you're going to do your hammy," and I just kept running.
Get in the E grade, would you? Who was in E?
I can't remember. Maybe Paddy Ryder.
Yeah, put me off Paddy, would you?
Yeah, but they pulled me out, and I remember just thinking, I've ruined it. And then, I'd only found out, 3 days later, they rang me 30 minutes before they called my name out.
That's fantastic, mate.
So I thought for a moment there I'd ruined it for myself, but I went out and got drafted, and it was that was one of the most special days of my career, really, because when you don't think it's ever going to happen and it finally happens, but then the real hard work started, I guess.
Yeah, the real hard work. But for that moment, I like to talk about this with people because, like, Hibbs obviously done it the hard way again, and we've had people on the show before that have. But Mick 2 really full-on years, having to work flat out, like genuine work too, and then during the day, and then train like a professional, play on professional athletes the VFL boys and girls don't get anywhere near the credit they deserve, and I'm pretty passionate about this, and I'm also passionate about running and other athletic development stuff not playing as much of a part as it should. Like competitiveness and soul integrity of the person have to become 1 and 2, and he's got both of those in spades. The running was good, it got good, and it got up to level. And your first week at the club, tell me about that. Do you remember it?
I remember it too well.
Essendon Football Club, famous club, 150-year-old club.
I remember just being in awe of some of the players. Joe Watson, Mark McVeigh, Andrew Welsh, Dustin Fletcher, and just thinking, how good's this? And I kind of remember there's certain things you do across the day that can be a bit tedious and monotonous, like stretching, for example. We did.
You were never big on that.
Nah, but I remember in my first few weeks thinking, how good's this? I'm getting paid, and to be at a footy club and do stretching. A week ago, I was driving a forklift.
So good, mate.
So I kind of, for a long time across my career, I had that mentality of like, this is the best job in the world, and it would just help me have a bit more perspective, because I'd been out working, because I'd done 2 years of plumbing, putting roof sheets on. I'd been driving a forklift in a warehouse, and now I'm at a footy club with some of the greats of the game, and I'm playing footy, and it's unbelievable.
I know you come from a great family, but the fact you had that perspective so young as well is phenomenal. And I hope youngsters listening to this, Hibbo had already been on the tools in his Stingray years, guys, and then back in when he got to VFL was in the factory and that. So on the phenomenal stuff, really. And then you get like you said, you're going in, driving to training, doing your mobility, do your 1%ers, do everything else, hot colds and everything else, gym, all the stuff that is great anyway. It's great for you. Yeah. You're gonna be doing it for the next 60 years anyway now. Yep. But back then it's like, this is what it's all about. And you go to play in the MCG.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about your first game. You remember
that? First game, we.
When did you know you were playing?
Well, it's funny. I played all the NAB games, and NAB games were pretty big back then. I remember we played in the NAB Cup Grand Final against Collingwood, and it was 60,000 at Marvel. Or Eddie had back
pre-season comp for those out of Australia.
Yeah, so and I had a really good pre-season comp, and I was picked for the round 1, and I did my quad at training the Thursday before round 1. So I didn't get named officially, but I got told I was playing the morning of Thursday, and I did my quad, and I thought, I'm going to be one of these hard luck stories, to not get picked and miss out through injury. And it was about a 4-week quad. I played 2 in the VFL coming back, and I got the call up against Gold Coast because Dustin Fletcher he was injured or he's getting rested. Gold Coast were battling a little bit at that time, and got the call up, and we ended up. It's the infamous. I think it's the best round, first quarter ever. We were up by 94 points at quarter time. I'm thinking, how easy is this?
This game real life?
Yeah. So and I had a good game. I think I ended up with I think I had 6 intercept marks, which is still a debut record. And then Justin Fletcher came back the next week. We won by 184 points. Ended up missing out because Fletcher came back, and I had a blinder. But
you got omitted after 6 intercept. I don't remember that. I know the game. I don't remember you got that.
Yeah, I had 5 or 6 intercept marks, which I saw.
Debut record.
I saw somewhere. It was a record, but there's a record for everything these days. But then after that, I came back in and I played majority of the year after that. Had a pretty good year, and then it gave me a bit of a springboard for the rest of the year.
Your time at Bombers. Yeah, well, you definitely your best rookie of the year, best first year player.
Best young player.
Best young player. One of those awards. Mate, this is a very good football side, by the way. Like the Bombers at this stage, we'll obviously get to some stuff in a minute, but very strong, very good players. They've got best and fairest winners, Brownlow medalists, all Australians, future Hall of Famers on a few lines there. And again, like I mentioned, one of the more famous, if not the most famous club in the land with Collingwood, sporting club in the land that you're at. Life's great, flying along, doing young football in the system. You had a couple of really good years individually, really good years. You touch on it, obviously the obvious we're going to go through, touch on that period of 2012, 13 14. If you're not sure on it, or 16, if you're not sure on it, you can Google it. I'm not going to go too deep in it today, but how was that period in your life as a footballer and a person?
Yeah, the saga, that's what we're referencing to here. It was, because I was so young, I probably didn't understand the gravity of it straight away. But over the course of the next 3 years, when it just wouldn't go away, it was in the front and back papers nearly every day for years.
It really was. It was years.
At the start, it was. I thought you'd think it's going to go away, whatever. But after a while, in hindsight, I'll look back now. I think we're all struggling more than we thought. Purely, it just wore you down by the end. There's cameras and media at the club every day trying to get a grab when you're getting to your car at the car park. Going to family events, you couldn't go to a local footy club game. It was something that everyone would ask you about. It became a little bit embarrassing. You wouldn't even want to go to the cafe because someone's reading the paper and your head might be on the paper.
In survival mode, really.
Yeah, so you kind of
fight or flight.
Kind of for a long period of time, it was. I was hanging out with those footy boys, internally, either at training or at homes. You wouldn't go to the bars as much. You wouldn't go to cafes as much. And I didn't know that's how I was reacting to it until I look back now and realise. But you're right. We were in survival mode, trying to avoid any confrontation or. Just avoid the conversation with even aunties and uncles. Oh, what's going on? You're going to be all right. And it's like, rather than, one, I didn't know the answer, and two, I just couldn't be bothered having the conversation.
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
You're still trying to get yourself up every single weekend.
Exactly. So that was the hard thing, was being a bit mentally fatigued by it and then having to just spring out of it on the weekend. And you probably haven't trained with the purpose, motivation and intent that you need to play the best footy you can during the week, because you're knackered. There's cameras on the sideline, there's cameras when you're walking in. You got the AFL PA coming in and having a meeting. We called them crisis meetings, and we'd say crisis meeting 417. We'd gag about it, but it was true. If you don't laugh, you cry.
Banter would have got you through. A lot of piss taking would have gone on, no doubt. You played some good footy in that time too, Mick, so you really credit to yourself to be able to compartmentalise and because like it really is like running a fucking marathon every day from a mental perspective, even though at the time you didn't know it. You played some great footy. The boys are really tight-knit. I know you'll go through some of your better mates at Bombers.
Yep.
January 2016, do you remember that era and when you found out that it was going to go down? Yeah,
I remember, we obviously prior to that, when we won the case, 16 is when we got with the appeal. I remember when we won, we were was just before round 1 and we were playing Sydney in 15.
This is 15, yeah.
It was going all right.
Did you think it was done? Did you think when?
Yeah. Thought
which
we
all did. We all thought it was over by this.
I thought it was done, and then I think they had 60 days to appeal it, and they appealed, and that kind of went on for a year. But in the back of our mind, we were like, how often it's an appeal? Like,
Ever. Never.
They can't win, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember we all went to, I think it was the Sofitel in St Kilda at the time. The whole team was there in a boardroom, kind of just waiting for news from the PA. And
we're talking 16 now, aren't we?
January 2016. Well, the date you referenced. And all sitting there eagerly. In my head, I'm thinking we're gonna. Either way, we're getting on the piss together. We're either celebrating or
it's a lock in either way.
We're going home and having a tear. But I remember one of the lawyers came in, who wasn't sitting on the court case, but he had it on Skype or whatever in a different room. We were just all in there talking together. No, we couldn't hear anything going on. He walked in and said, I'll never forget him. He said, "We're 10 goals down at 3/4 time, and we're against the wind." That's what he said, and and I was like, "Oh wow, what do you mean?" Because we all thought it was just going to be done that day, and then an hour or two later, we found out. A lot of grown men crying. It was a rough day, but we just all got on the piss together and tried to get over it that way. It's not the way to go about it, but
where'd you just stay there? Did you?
No, we went to Dave Myers' house in Essendon.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone came.
Would have been
coaches
numb. Would have
and
been pretty fucking numb.
Yeah. It was one of those things. 1 minute you laugh, and then you sit there and go, "Oh, hold on, what happens now?"
A lot of uncertainty.
What do we do? And then info kept getting drip fed in. Well, we're not allowed to go to the club. We're not allowed to.
So just go for the guys out of Australia. Just go through what you knew at this stage in 26 that day when you were at David Myers having a few beers. What did you know? What did you know?
All I knew is we weren't playing football
in that year alone.
We knew we were done.
You knew it was 12 months.
We knew it was 12 months back, and then it was backdated, so we could end up going back into September. But we weren't playing finals, and they. So we could go back to training in September or October, but there was no contact with the club, no games. Obviously, couldn't even play golf and for a handicap, little things like that. Couldn't play a local cricket game.
Phenomenal.
Couldn't hand a card in to get my golf handicap down. Little things like that. Not that bothered me at the time.
Oh, it does, mate. You think about back then.
Think about how
for people's mental health and mindset, phenomenal, really. Not enough people know about this. So yeah, continue on, mate.
So I wasn't playing footy, but then it was like, hold on, are we going to get paid? Do I have to get a job? What's the go here? So we didn't have a lot of information apart from we weren't playing and we weren't allowed to have contact from the club. So it was a strange day. Obviously emotional. I don't think it hit me until a few weeks later. I went away with my wife. She wasn't my wife then, but we went to Bali and. I had one too many beers one day and just broke down because I'm someone that kind of holds it in, tries to put on a tough front in front of everyone, and then I think that's when it hit me. I kind of needed to have that release, and then I just wanted to plan a nice trip for that year, try get over footy, obviously keep reasonably fit. I had a couple of little injuries at the time, like I had patellar tendonitis pretty bad, so I probably needed a bit of a break anyway. And during that year, I just literally I didn't want to watch footy. Boys trained out at Pegs, I think it was, or St Bernard's or wherever I was out there. And I only went to about 2 sessions. I'd just jog the tan with Michael Hurley. We'd go for a light kick, and then once it got about a month or two out from going back, I was going through a trade situation as well, which we might touch on in a sec. But I kind of did just the bare minimum to keep my rig in decent enough shape. So when I was ready to go back, I knew I could just go balls and all and give it my all. Otherwise, I would have just been mentally drained, not being able to having to train all week and then not play on the weekend.
Really, really astute, mate. Because we just referenced the mental challenge of the last 3 or 4 years. So to get that reprieve, as bad as it was in January, and then, like you said, you hold it all together for everyone your way, and then the release, again, you're really in tune with yourself there, and then, so no, I don't need to be hitting 45s and doing game sim. I can just jog with my mate, a very good mate, Michael Hurley, and have a kick. Like, why the need to be on? I don't have to be on, because I don't have to be on. So let's use this as a time to regenerate and adapt. Love that. I didn't know that was that time for you. So that's brilliant. When did you know about when was that all happening with your manager and trade times?
Well, it kind of. I didn't float the idea early. I remember a lot of the guys were getting re-signed, and I'd just come off a couple of really good years. I was nearly all Australian in 2013 and 14, and 15 I had a bit of a downer year. I was still in top 10 of the best and fairest, but I had a little bit of a niggly injury, and they were re-signing guys, and I remember just being a bit bitter, like why haven't they even asked my manager, why haven't they spoke to me? He goes, mate, don't know. Like, I think they were worried about how the shape I was going to come back in after a year off, maybe.
Well, was it? This is, I don't know. I'm just guessing. Was the optics of you not being as much at St Bernard's as others?
Maybe, but they signed Michael Hurley, so they re-signed him for a big one. Obviously, they were bigger stars than me, like playing good footy, but. Michael Hurley, Cale Hooker, they were asking for $900 million contracts. I wasn't in that realm, but so I wasn't sure. And then Goody, who I spent a lot of time with at Essendon, he
big mentor of yours,
big mentor of mine and close friend, still is. He contacted me just before I went to Europe and just floated the idea. He goes, I respect whatever you do, but just know, like, I'd love for you to come to Melbourne. And that's when I really started thinking about it. I spoke to Anthea about it. She was big on me leaving. She saw the mental toll it was taking, and a big reason why I was considering it is because when I was going to training at Essendon, I was just going there to tick a box. I was just doing what was put in front of me, and I knew, especially in that last year, I knew to be the best I could, you got to do extras. You got to come in with purpose and be motivated. Find motivation within yourself. Do everything at 100%. And I was kind of just ticking boxes. I was being seen. I wasn't pulling out of drills or anything, but sometimes I was just going through the motions.
But also, mate, you're not entirely happy.
You're
doing that.
Yeah, and it was
being true to yourself.
Exactly. So, although my mates, and still to this day, most of my best mates are Essendon boys, I didn't want to let them down. Didn't want to leave them. But I thought if I'm going to be a little bit selfish here and try to get the best out of my footy, I felt like it was going to be at a different club. And it took a bit of time over that Europe trip. I went to Europe for 9 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks with the boys, which was great fun.
Gee, that would have been decent.
That was good fun. Who
were you with there, mate?
There was 12 of us, I think. So Job, Hooksy, Hurls, Tommy Bell-Chambers, Angus Montfrees, Dyson Heppel.
Geez, some good goals there.
Yeah, Trav Collier, Dave Miles, Brendan Lee. Just could be forgetting someone.
Good dozen though.
Yeah, there was a few.
Who's some of the best endurance? You're very good on the endurance. Who else keeps up with you?
Hurls is good.
You and Hurls?
Yeah, Tommy Bell-Chambers, he's good. He's a big unit. He gets to a point though where you probably want to stay within 10 outside of 10 metres of him. But,
and then he's just like tips over the edge.
Yeah, he's gotten better with his age, big Tommy. But yeah, we did Barcelona, did Pamplona, did running with the Bulls, sailed Croatia.
How's that go on the contract? AFL
contract? I don't think I was supposed to run.
I love you, mate.
The plan was for all of us to run, and it got to the morning, and all the boys bitched out, and I was the only one that ran. I ran on my own. So.
Why? That does not surprise me, and that's why we love it.
Yeah, there's some fond memories there, and once we peeled off, I think we all went our separate ways after Croatia, and I met Anthea in London. And we all were nearly crying because this trip of a lifetime was over, and they was trying to pitch to me to stay because they knew where I was 50-50, and I was genuinely 50-50 at that stage. And then, once I got home, I kind of started talking to my manager. All right, let's see what this looks like, see what Melbourne can offer, and see if Essendon want to come to the party a little bit. And Essendon did, to their credit, but it was by the time I'd already made my decision up in my head. And I don't know about you, but once I would kind of make a decision in my head, especially when it comes to my life and my future, like I've made my mind up. I'll hear it, but I just knew that was the best decision for me to prove myself to a whole new group of people, coaches, and just, hey, I've still got a fair bit of good footy in me, and I feel like if I stayed at Essendon, I've been there with those people, I've proved it to them before, and I'm just going to keep coasting. I wanted to do it to a whole new group, and it was my best decision of my life.
Yes, it probably speaks to a lot of things in life. So you listen to this, whether you're football, sport, doesn't matter what level, even if business, life in general, a lot of good lessons you can take from that. A lot of good lessons. First week at Melbourne, where were you training? Do you remember it?
It was Gosh's paddock. I remember, when you
obviously an A goodie.
After your 5 year plus players come back a bit 2 weeks later, then I remember I was still niggling my patellar tendonitis. So I was in rehab. So I went in with the young guys, to try to get to know everyone and just try to get 2 weeks of training before the whole group get back. So hopefully I can jump out and do some drills. I was in rehab for quite a while.
That's harder than you, Jordan.
Yeah. So, and I remember like hating that and getting very impatient with how my body was going. And some of the guys, I'll go back a little bit, some of the guys told me to take the extra, because it was a 4-year contract versus a 3-year contract. The boys were telling me to take it because we were convinced I wasn't going to play anymore. I couldn't run across the street with how bad my knee was. And I didn't know, they can improve pretty quick, patellar tendonitis, but it can also go downhill pretty quick as well. So I was getting very impatient. But I was, doing the right thing and doing what I was told, and listening to the fitness staff. I remember my first main match sim drills. It took a while to get into that phase, slowly build up, and it was about February, and just wanting to go balls out, running back with the fly, doing
Mick Hibberd things,
just going crazy, and I remember the boys getting really excited by that at training, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! This is why I come here." I don't think these boys had seen that in me, and we had I had a pre-season game, played quite well, and then I did an Achilles sheath. I don't know if you, I've had it, and I was out for about a month, so I missed the first.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
they're very painful and very annoying injuries.
Yeah, and that was a part of my last year. I had a similar injury, but I kind of battled through it.
23. 17 was a phenomenal year. Then I didn't see. This is me not doing my research. Didn't know that.
Missed the first 4 rounds.
The numbers in 17 were huge.
Yeah,
you averaged 27, 28 touches a game, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Off back flank. Finally got the All Australian that probably could have been multiple times. That was your first year All Australian.
Yep.
That's a big moment, mate.
Yeah, I remember. I remember thinking I was a chance. I remember thinking, I missed the first 4 games. Might have hurt me a little bit. And there was a couple of halfbacks that year that had cracking years. Jeremy Howe and Dylan Robertson. I remember thinking it was one of us 3 was going to get it, and I remember getting the call and just bawling. All the hard work, all the the year off, making the decision to come. Am I making the right decision? All that kind of stuff, and I just remember just being so proud of myself.
That's awesome, mate. So vindicated.
Yeah.
It's the self-love is so important in life, and we always think we don't want to, you're talking about other people, you're always talking about other people, not letting other people down, all this stuff. But the ability to actually be really proud of yourself.
Yeah.
That's good, mate. And again, really self-aware.
Yeah, and it's not really who I am. Always looking at other people, but I remember ringing. Couldn't wait to ring. My brother, my dad, my mum, my missus. And that was obviously the premiership was one, but I remember being really proud of that because it was something that it just escaped me in the past, and obviously everything that I've been through. That was a cool moment. So, we just missed out on finals that year, but I remember just thinking that was a very positive year personally, because you don't play for those kind of awards, but it's definitely.
It's nice to be looked back on. It's nice to look back on and be vindicated.
Yeah,
and it's just great for you to be able to know that what you've done, you've made the right choice for you and your family, and like you said, you were quick on the phone to your family after that, and that's massive, because such a big part of your life is your family. 2018, 2019, rolling through this, you're feeling a part of the fabric now, mate, at the Demons.
Yep.
Good mate, Goody. Some of you would have been pretty good mates, a few of those boys. There are a few pretty similar characters to you, no doubt.
Yeah, we got obviously I was close with Goody. I had Matt Egan there as well, who was at Essendon. Craig Jennings, he was
very
there
good
as well.
football brain.
Yeah, he is very underrated actually. I was close with Ego, still am. So I had familiar faces, and then I made good friends, especially the older guys. Jordan Lewis came to the club same year as me. Nathan Jones. I had Melky. Jake Melksham was a big reason why I went to Melbourne.
Good mate of yours.
Yeah, good mate of mine. Best man of each other's weddings.
One of the great smiles of all time.
Yeah,
one of the great sets of chompers.
Big chompers.
Big chompers. Magnificent chompers.
But yeah, it's funny, I've come off All Australian, and my role shifted a little bit. I went a little bit deeper in defence, and being a little bit like, I feel like I could be utilised a bit better here. But the team, we ended up making a prelim in 18, and then missing out in finals in 19 and 20. But I think playing in big finals, we played Geelong and Hawthorn. 85, 90,000 in finals just before we went over to Perth, and West Coast gave us a bit of a shellacking, and they ended up going over to win it. But we felt like we were close, and that was the belief leading to the next few years. But it wasn't to be. We had a few things we needed to tinker with. We needed to fix a few holes, and we brought Maisie over in his first year was 2019, and he's one of my best mates now. I played golf with him the other day, and he kind of changed a lot of the and he's similar, like-minded to me in terms of hating losing and competitive, and that's kind of why we respected each other so much, and that's why he was so good for the team. He changed a lot about that footy club, and he played a big part in us winning the flag.
From an outsider looking in, I can figure that. He's such a presence, such a real strong presence, like you in the back six, but it permeates through the whole group, and the day-to-days, it's not just about those 3 hours on a Saturday. So I can imagine him and you not only getting along so well, but also being massive. And I've said that leadership, you've always had a real quiet leadership about you. You're very vocal as well, but the way you go about your business day to day, and I can imagine Maisie being the same. 2019, missed the finals. COVID hits, take us through 2020, and obviously April of that year, a really tough time for you, the toughest of all time. Obviously, we can touch on it. COVID's hit, but COVID's a really not even in the equation right now.
Yeah, so it went from being one of the great years. I just got married at the start of 2020. Jake Melksham got married a month later. Good mate of ours, Caleb Cox, got married. I was best man at both their weddings. And then, within a month, lockdown happens, and we don't know what's going on. Everyone's in the same boat in Melbourne. Footy got shut down. We didn't know. We were off for 8 weeks or something, and, sitting at home one day, and during lockdown, we're not allowed to leave within 5 k's of the house. We were down in Dramana, me and my wife, and torrential weather. I remember going, this weather's so bad, we're going to drive back up the city. And getting a phone call from my sister at 11 p.m. This would have been the 6th of April. Jeff, my brother, 3.5 years older, we spoke about him. They haven't seen him, and he apparently went out fishing. I went out fishing? What do you mean? And he had a little dinghy no bigger than a Subaru. A Suzuki Swift. His car was still at the pier, but no one had heard from him for about near about 24 hours. So I remember the family had a lot of hope in that moment, like, oh, it's Jeff and you knew him well. Like, he would just show up, which was probably a fair enough assessment of Jeff. Like, he had been known to go missing, but I knew in that moment, he there's no way he was coming back. If his boat isn't there, his car's still there, and the weather that made us leave Dramana, and he was out during that weather, which he was, we weren't seeing him again. So I remember, although there was this in the back of my mind, hope, 1 or 2% hope, I knew that was the last time we'd probably heard of or seen of Jeff, which was tough, because it was, during a time where you can't really go out and see people. I remember being the point of call for the police and the investigation, because Mum and Dad couldn't handle it. They were just really struggling big time, and I had a decision to make about a month later. Obviously I'm grieving Jeff as most people were. I was trying to put on a tough front, try to support my family, and go in the shower, and that's when I'd have my cry, or go in a quiet room on my own. Don't really, it's not for everyone. Like, I think it's good to be able to express your emotions to people. I just didn't want to, not that it's weakness, I just wanted to try to be strong for my family. If I felt like if I showed as strong emotions that I was feeling, then it would make them worse. But a month later, with footy got kicked into gear. We were back training. I'm still struggling with Jeff, and we're going into the hubs in Sydney and Queensland. And I remember thinking I might not go. But as I said, I was on one earlier. I said I was on my 1 year deals. I was 30. I was fighting for a career still, and I still, I said I retired. I felt like I knew when I wanted to retire. I didn't want to retire. I wanted to keep playing, I made the decision to leave, which was probably the hardest few months of my life, because not only was I struggling with Jeff, but I couldn't be there for my mum, my dad, my sister, and all I wanted to do was be home and to try, be interstate and go and just try to train your ass off and be the best player you can be, and not have your family around and not be able to give him a cuddle was tough. I remember I was lucky I had the footy club around me. I remember some of my mates, like Jake Malcolm was unbelievable. Steve May, we spoke about. Jake would check on me nearly every day. He'd sit in my hotel, because we were sitting in a hotel room. We were still in a hub. We couldn't go anywhere. He'd nearly sit with me every night, just to make sure I was all good. We were staying at, it's a weird one, but we were staying at, because he obviously went missing in the water and never seen. I remember just having this infatuation with water after that, and we were staying across from the Manly beach, and there was a 20-year storm coming through, and every part of me wanted to just jump in the water to feel that what maybe he was feeling. And Jake was like, "Mate, what are you doing? Just calm down a bit. You're all good." But that was just a thing. I spoke to a psych nearly every second day. I spoke to my wife, my mates. I really needed, that was the time where I was like, I need to let it out, express what I'm feeling. And sometimes I'd speak to a sports psych or someone, and sometimes you'd hide a few things that you're feeling. I remember during this time, it was where I probably grew up a little bit. It was like, no, there's no judgment here. I need to speak to someone, and it really helped me through the grieving process, and ended up just putting, the thing for me was being at a footy club and training, and it kind of gave me an hour each day where I was just focused on that. I could go think about Jeff afterwards, and on the game day I remember being pumped and excited to play, because that was all I was thinking about, was footy, and just focusing on that. And I think in a way, because I was so excited to train and play, I ended up having a really good year that year. The 16-minute quarters probably helped me a little bit in the 30s, but I forgot about that. It was a tough year, but in a way, I realised how strong I could be, and I just don't think anything will ever get that tough unless something ever happened to my kids. I can't see ever going through anything like that again.
Well spoken. 2020 is another year that you copped it from everywhere as far as mental. Like you're going a marathon every day, and you described that really well. Jeff beautiful person and your biggest cheerleader, your biggest fan. So he's still very, no doubt, proud and looking down on you, mate. He's an amazing person. Amazingly sad, and the fact you could really punch out the season you had was a credit to you. Don't be modest. As if that you were dialed in. You were very dialed in. Coming through that year, coming back from the hub, how did you go in that transition from that really weird time? It was a weird time for everyone, let alone you. Look, I was thinking about you all the time. You performed phenomenally, come back to a bit of normality in Melbourne around Christmas time, and then where was your head at leading into 21? Where was your head at? Where was your motivation sitting in, and where's it go? You would have known you were close?
At the end of the year, I remember having a good year, obviously, and I wasn't sure whether they'd want me again at the footy club. But in the exit review, they said, "Mate, of course we want you," kind of thing. But then after being on for so long and really having a hyper focus on dealing with Jeff and having to be on, I had a bit of a crash where I lacked a bit of motivation early in 21, and that year there was still no crowds, and there was still a few. I was kind of. I remember like not wanting to go to training a couple of times, and I'm speaking to the psych, that was completely natural and normal.
Bloody hell.
I had an up and down year in 21. The 21's the year we won the flag, but it wasn't easy for me at all. I found myself finally at that age getting left out of teams. Not getting picked, just missing out, form slumps. I played most of the year, but then the back end of the year, I think around round 15, I got dropped, and I can't remember being dropped until my first year of footy at Essendon before that. So
I could give you some bloody info on that if you need to, mate. It's not a good feeling, is it?
So I remember. So
you're out of the side, and the side's building momentum.
Building big momentum at the pointy end where, we're about 8 wins on the trot. I remember having a bad game against Adelaide, and I was going okay. I was just going though. I wasn't, and there was a few guys coming up, Jake Bowie, Trent Rivers, that were really building. Jake Bowie in the VFL was putting together some really good games, and I remember feeling the pressure, and I knew I wasn't playing great, but I remember thinking I'm doing enough, but the trigger got pulled and I got dropped, and it was a bit foreign for me, because I hadn't dealt with that. But there's been guys my age been dropped before, and I remember watching how they dealt with it. And you get in the locker room and you got your head down and you're not talking to your teammates, and you're not talking up in meetings just because you're not playing. And there's this bitterness about being dropped. I remember thinking I'm not going to be one of those blokes. I've penned a phrase, I don't know where I heard it from, but I know Melbourne still use it. I said, "Don't get bitter, get better."
The pig, that is elite.
Yeah, and Maisie uses it all the time, and it was my mentality of I know I've been dropped, but that's on me. I can't blame Goody for not picking me. I'm the one out there playing. I'm obviously not playing good enough, and there's someone else, and I'm proud of the bloke behind me that's playing well.
Love that.
I'm going to help them, but at the same time, I'm going to make sure I get back in. So you need to look within yourself and stop blaming other people sometimes. And I knew within myself I wasn't winning games off my own boot. I wasn't playing the best footy I could, so I had to get better. And I always said that if I got dropped, I was like, "Yeah, no worries, mate. I need to get better."
Love that, mate.
So and that attitude alone, I think, put me in front of others when it comes to getting picked again. I know that. I've spoke to coaches about it, and where they do get bitter and they start cracking the shits and they're sulking around the club. Like, if it's a footy club, everyone sees that stuff and it permeates through the group, and you find yourself not wanting to be like that. So I felt like that attitude held me in good stead, and I pushed to the back end of the year and I hit form at the right time, I got a bit of luck along the way, but
Make your own luck, mate.
yeah. So
Make your own luck. Don't get bitter, get better. What a story! And again, haven't spoke to you about that before, so love hearing that. And there's always nuggets and lessons and for stuff like you've got hundreds, and that's why I was so big on getting you on. Look, I knew that you'd be able to really articulate it, and youngsters, people in their 70s are listening to this going, yeah, I can take stuff out of that, and it's irrelevant of sport. That's what it's all about. He's done all the stuff that's given him self-belief, but then you cop a few self-belief knocks, like you did in the mid of 21, and well, okay, the reps are giving me self-belief, but now? I've got to get better. And as soon as you drop the head, it's over. And you spoke to being a good teammate back in the 10s or in the noughties, even when you were a kid, you wanted to be the best teammate you could be. And that there's nothing better than if you're not in the side. That's a true test. If how good a teammate are you when you got to get back in the side and not drop your head and speak up in meetings. Love that. You got back in finals time, different finals time. Another COVID affected year. WA, tell us about it.
Yeah, because there was no VFL playing then. I didn't play the first final. I hadn't played AFL for about 5 weeks, but we'd kind of played match sims against other teams. Might have been 14 on 14, 12 on 12. They're not games, it's not. But I remember in my head, every training session was like a game to me. I had a point to prove. Hey, like, you're going to pick me or I'm going to pick myself because that's how hard I'm going to train. Because it was the only way I could prove, because there was no real games on the weekend, especially when we went to Perth. Perth teams were on holidays. So we would have match sim on Thursdays, or if there's a week off or whatever it was on the weekend, on the week off, because we won our first final. I think we had a week off before the prelim. We had a match sim, and I remember thinking it was a grand final for me, and we were playing 1s v2s, and I was having a blinder, and I remember thinking I was a chance to get picked anyway, because there were the murmurs getting around, and I remember in the second half they put me in the 1s back line, and I was like, oh, what's happening here, kind of thing, and Joel Smith ended up having a little hammy, and I've come in for him, and even though in my head I thought I was going to come in anyway, that's the luck that came in unlucky for Joel, but lucky for me. I came in, and then we played in the prelim against Geelong. Your mob, you're Geelong, aren't you? Sorry, mate.
I was very, very happy man that night, because I knew exactly what was going to outplay and play the next week. So.
Yeah, and then I played well, and even though I played well, and you're just never too sure. I just remember thinking, all the shit that's going on.
I know. What now?
What's going to happen to me now? Like, surely,
when did you know? When did you know you win?
Nah, they told me on the. It's one of those things as well. Like, they just assume that you're in. Most of the time, you just assume you're in until you're not, kind of thing. Yeah. And I was in all the meetings with the 1s. I was training with the 1s, but in my head, as I said, I was like, something bad's going to happen. So this is part of my story. And I just walked up to Chappie on the Thursday, or
Troy Chaplin.
Yeah, he was the backline coach, and he goes, I said, mate, like,
just tell me,
I'm in, yeah. And he goes, mate, of course you're in. You're one of our best back. And I was like,
I love that shit.
So, so that was good feeling.
Refresh my memory. Grand final parade or not? WA?
No, we didn't have a parade.
What was the lead up like? Different?
It was different. I remember,
still the grand final.
I remember, it was still packed out.
Packed crowd.
Optus, yeah. So
a couple of good mates in the crowd.
Yeah, so
friends.
We trained the day before, which is, we call it Demon Day. It's Captain's Run.
Demon Day, Captain's Run. Yeah.
And there would have been maybe 15,000, 20,000 people watching training.
How's that from a young bloke wanting to play AFL when you were 9, 10 years of age? You're doing your Captain's Run, which is a bit of feel good stuff.
Yeah.
The day before an AFL grand final. How good, mate?
It was pretty cool. I remember just, there's a lot of media leading up to the game as well. They'd come to our hotel we were staying, and there's I just remember thinking, this is real, like, but then at the same time pinching myself, like, I can't believe this is happening, and still thinking in my head, like, something might happen here where I might not get picked at the last minute.
Jeez,
but like, just because it meant so much to me. That was what I was worried about. But obviously, it's just irrational. But yeah, it was a cool week. My brother come down from Darwin. I had cousins that lived in Perth. I had a couple of mates that did a dodgy and went over there. So it was cool, and I'm pretty good with nerves. I've always said the games I've only ever been nervous for is Anzac Day. Coming back from a decent injury, I was always nervous I'm going to re-injure, because you put so much time in rehab and you just don't want to go back into rehab again, and you just want to keep playing footy. I remember always being nervous for those games, and the grand final, not sleeping too well the 2 nights before, just running over, racing the game in my head of how it's going to work. I remember, trying to do mindfulness to get some sleep and to not play the game over my head. Otherwise, I would have been exhausted going into it. But when it means so much and how far I've come, and when footy's been my life since I was 5 years old, it's
your life
it's hard.
And your decade before that, leading up to it, like what you'd already endured coming up to that day, like. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah.
So, really, really, really powerful moment. Running out on the ground, did you were dialed in from the start? Just know the game?
Kind of. I did a sporty the other night, and the guy goes, "When did you realise you weren't going to win Norm Smith?" I said, "When I walked on the ground." So I knew I was there to play my role. Yeah. I was never going to be. I was playing deep back, and I had some big contests early. I had one-on-one with Waitman, I think, for the 2 minutes in, and I smashed into the post and nearly snapped the post. But I just remember just not wanting to give him an inch. I didn't get much of the ball that day, but I had a few really big defensive contests. It was an incredible day.
Those defensive contests, we'll get to they were worth their weight in gold. Any coach and any player knows that. Like they're worth 5-6 touches or like they're everything. And you talk about Goody loving you so much, and I know you're good friends, but having yourself and Maisie on the last line is you feel pretty safe in your gut knowing that you got 2 of the all-time great competitors on the last line on the biggest day of all. When did you know you had it? I
thought we lost it in the second quarter, and I wouldn't be the only one thinking that. No. We went 19 points down. Bont kicked 2 in a row, I think, or Trawler just kicked 1, Bont just kicked 1. We were 19 points down. They had all the momentum, and I remember thinking it's going to be a shit week.
You actually thought that during the game?
Thought that during.
It's funny what you remember, isn't it?
A split second moment.
But the brain does that, mate.
Yeah.
Like, we all do it. It's just good to hear you say.
Yeah, no. I remember thinking, and then we pulled our finger out after that, and the third quarter, I remember we kicked 1, kicked 2, kicked 3. The midfielders was splits and through.
Literally walking out of stoppage on the track, walked out. No sweeper required.
Jacko had a Perla quarter track, and Clary just dominated. Tommy Sparrow. I think Tommy Sparrow kicked the goal. We went 2 goals up. And Maisie, I remember the conversation. It's funny because I was right next to him. Maisie's like, "All right, let's shut it down. We're up. Let's go into 3/4 time, 2 goals up. There's still about 5 minutes to go." And Track said, "Fuck that." Like
you remember it like it was yesterday.
I remember it because I was thinking the same as Maisie.
Yeah.
Like,
mate, we're the ones on the last line.
Yeah.
Hey, Track, fucking easy for you to say. You ain't even getting tagged out there.
Exactly. So I just didn't want to because the goals are on us. So. Then they kicked another 2 or 3, and we were 24 points up or whatever at 3/4 time. We kicked the next 3, and I think me, Jake Lever, and Maisie all looked at each other like it was still 18 minutes to go. But we were confident. But you know what footy's like; it can turn like that. And I never think it's gonna. Because I remember playing against North in the final in 2012, and we were 42 points up, and we ended up losing that final, and that's still
imprinted in your brain.
My brain. But I think when we got about 10 goals up, there's about 15 minutes to go. And
breathe out.
I remember we were just all, every goal, we would just hug each other. And you kind of had a moment, a few moments where you could just look around and just suck it all up, which was pretty sick, because everyone was going nuts for every goal we kicked. I think it was probably 80% Melbourne supporters there. I think everyone wanted Melbourne to win. So yeah, that was, I'd say when I knew we were definitely going to win, I probably should have been 5 minutes into the fourth when we were about 6-7 goals up, but it was probably when we were 10 goals up. I was like, all right, well, they're not coming back now, not with our defence anyway.
First person, no, not with that elite back six.
Yeah.
First person you hugged? Siren? Remember?
I think Maisie.
Would have been Maisie or Lever or someone.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those. Well, I think our back, even it may be Trent Rivers actually. We all just.
You and Goody would have had a fair embrace.
Yeah, we did. There's a funny photo of like me grabbing his head, screaming.
Well, there's a lot of photos of you after the game actually getting around, not just on the ground. So they're on the ground, got the cup now. That run of the cup now. Now I know I've done a lot of running with you, Pig, and I've never seen you run a quicker 150. That 150 or 200 with the cup.
The GPS said that was the quickest I ran for the day.
Yeah, no doubt about that. You had the cup, ladies and gentlemen. Google if you haven't seen it, or any football fan seen it.
Yeah.
That would have been pure adulation, just the relief.
Yeah, I knew where my brother was in the pocket because I saw him. He told one when you give him the tickets out and they're all online. I wanted to know where he was sitting. I knew he was sitting near the fence in that pocket, and I knew if we won that he's finding his way to the fence. And everyone's passing the cup around. It was we got our medals and we're just in the middle, and it was like, what do we do next, kind of thing. And I remember grabbing the cup off track, I think it was, and everyone was looking at it, and I just got it and had this moment of being a little kid and just running off with it, squealing. And I went off on the wing, and the crowd went off, and I remember seeing my brother and just running off up to him, and we had two of my mates were there, my cousin there. They were trying to, and Bernie Vince was there as well, and they were trying to rip it out of my hand. And I remember gripping onto it that much that I'm like, I could lose this. I've only had it for 3 minutes and I might lose the cup. I ripped it out, but it got a good laugh, and it's been played all over the internet for a while now, and I still get sent that video, but I don't regret doing it.
Not one bit. What do you mean? That's the greatest moment.
It was very
There's so
funny.
much. Look, that's 30 years of family and work and everything gone into that. That's one of the great moments of all time. It's epic. Aftermath in WA. Who was in the votes? Who was in the best? Obviously, you're always in the top three.
Yeah.
Who was helping you out along the way? Off the field.
Maisie was good.
Maisie good.
Considering like he didn't play in the grand final, like Melky's always a ripper to be on with, and it was as if he was part of it as well. So
that's the same personality as you, mate.
Yeah.
Right?
I stayed with me and Maisie ended up staying at Crown for like a week because you were coming back to COVID in Melbourne, and
there's no rush.
We had some good times there. We kind of asked, and then James Bailey Fritsch, James Harms, Marty Hall, he was there on the list at the time. We kind of like all stayed near each other.
Coaching staff could really enjoy it as well.
Yeah, for a few days. Yeah, I think everyone. It was the Saturday. Obviously, we played, and most people got back and left on the Wednesday night.
Club B&F, was it in COVID? No, remind me, how did that all work?
I think that was like in October.
So could you enjoy yourself at those kind of nights? Or I can't remember post COVID. That was all rolls into one, to be honest.
I can't remember our COVID. I think we were out then, and it was.
So you can enjoy yourself the celebrations, both.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of person Mick is. The cup did the rounds, obviously. He took it back to the football club I played at, some of the football club and Mick's junior club, and made a lot of people very, very happy there. I think you took it around a bit, didn't you? That cup?
I had it for 24 hours, so I got it that morning, took it straight down to Somerville, and then I took it to Mum's quickly, but Mum ended up coming to the footy club anyway.
So good, mate.
And then just a few of my mates that were Melbourne supporters ended up having it was a little bit of COVID then. You weren't supposed to be out too much, but I took it to one of my mates and we made a few cocktails out of the cup and we filled it full of all sorts of things.
Fantastic.
So it was that was good fun. It was a good week, and I remember Track had to pick it up off me in the morning. I was still in my jeans and And he goes, "What, you all right?" And I'm like, maybe just give the cup a bit of a wash.
Hey, track, maybe wash this cup. It's had the King's Cup for the last 12 hours, and about 55 of the Peninsula's finest lips on it too. I love that, Mick. You're a star coming through. You've spoke about coming through to retirement. From the flag to when you pulled the pin, is there any other poignant or pivotal moments, or you just kind of knew as you evolved that the time you've got beautiful young girls now and the time was right?
Yeah, I think having kids puts everything in perspective, and footy's not everything, although it has been a massive part of my life for a long, long time, and something I've loved doing. It was becoming the fiery stuff, because I knew it was going to be a career after footy. It became a bit more of a focus for me to make sure I pass all these stages. And I think there was a moment when my mum told me, this is from my mum, would never have thought she was this wise until just now, but I was coming back through my Achilles stuff through the VFL, and I had an assessment for the Fireys the next day. It was on the Monday, and I got a real bad head knock and knocked myself out. I'd never been knocked out before, and couldn't remember anything. Got up, didn't think I'd been knocked out, playing on my man. My physio was trying to drag me off. I was out of it, and I went in to do the test, and I failed the test, and I said, I've got something important on tomorrow. I don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was, couldn't remember, and I rang my wife. She didn't answer. My mum was at the ground, and I rang my missus' mum, mother-in-law, and she said, "You got your Fireys test." And I remember just going, "Oh no, I need my brain for this." And my mum said to me, she goes, "You got knocked out, you're trying to play footy next, you wanted to get in the AFL next week, and the first thing you were worried about was the Fireys. You weren't even thinking about football. Don't you think maybe that's a good sign?" And I was like, shit, yeah, you're probably right. Kind of knew it anyway. As I said, I probably knew at the start of the year, but at this stage it was back end of the year, and I was like, do I play again? I think that moment, and having kids, and then I didn't want to get another head knock, and know the repercussions of that, and we know a bit more about that now with Angus Brayshaw and all the head trauma, CTE stuff that they're talking about. I remember just being a little bit like, I think if I know, I know. And after that comment from Mum, it just took 10% out of my sales, and you need 100% of it to be half decent football, especially at 34 years old. So, I mean, I kind of knew at the start of the year, but when I spoke to Goody, I passed one of the main tests for the Fireys, and pretty much knew I'd be in. I remember just going to Goody, "Hey mate, just keep this between us. I'll announce this whenever you want me to announce it. I don't want it to be a distraction." We had finals coming up that week. Actually, that's not true. It was a bit before that, but we had important game that week, and I just said, I'm going to retire at the end of the year. I won't tell anyone if you don't want to. And he goes, "Oh, you just tell me how you want to do it." And I think we told the boys maybe a week or two later. And I haven't had any regrets. I thought I would. I obviously miss footy. I miss the boys. I miss the locker room. I miss running out in the G and the competitiveness of stuff. But the day-to-day stuff, I'm good. Doing what I'm doing and spending more time with my kids and not being sore. There'd be times after a game where I couldn't even pick Sunday up. My groins were sore, my hammies, my back. I want to be able to go to the park and take my kids for a run and go to sport with them growing up, and who knows, if I played another year, that could have put that all in jeopardy, and that was a big part of my decision making.
Beautifully spoken, beautiful on Cheryl.
My mum, yeah, Cheryl,
beautifully. Well, it's good how it come full circle.
Yeah, and
Cheryl just brought that to your attention more visible. Apart from the fact that, like you said, you've squeezed everything out of the lemon as well, mate. You've done so much, you've achieved so much on the football sense, but in a personal sense as well, that it's the perfect time and no regrets in anything anyway. And you'll be competing in more than one thing over the next 50 years anyway. You'll be still coaching your grandkids, no doubt. I love it. I really love it all. You're doing some good stuff at the moment, some real humorous stuff on Tommy Sheridan. Now, the guys that we need to be a bit serious today, because today's about Mick's life and all the stuff he's done to get there, and I want you guys to take some learnings, and no doubt you've taken hundreds of learnings and motivational, inspirational stuff. But you're very good at taking the piss. Like you're a very funny man. You and Tommy are doing some good stuff on the pod there, and you're a very comical man.
Yeah, well, it's more my nature to take the piss out of most things and have a bit more laugh. This is a nice setting to be able to, talk about life a bit more seriously and thoroughly enjoying it. But yeah, we've got the podcast with Tommy, which come about in an interesting way that we were just having a beer down on Boxing Day down at the Sereno pub.
Plural beers.
Beers, plural, several plural. And he just hit me up, and after you've had one too many, you agree to everything. Well, I do anyway. I'm a yes man, which gets me in trouble sometimes. But I agreed to it, and I knew he was into the podcast, and he does them quite well. And I said, yeah, mate, no worries, and kind of just thought he'd take it for gospel and move on. But he rang me 2 weeks later. He goes, I've got it all drafted up. I've got the marketing team. I'm like,
he's full.
Yeah, I'm like,
this is fair income.
I'm like, all right. I'm like, mate, I'm gonna need to have a think about this. I'm like, but in my mind, I'm still saying, yeah, mate, that's a good idea, because it's who I am. I'm like, yeah, that's a good idea. But in my head, I'm like, how am I going to drop this to him nicely? I'm a bit nervous about doing it. And I think the reason I didn't want to do it was because it was foreign to me, a bit new. But then after a while, I'm like, you know what, it'd be good to get out of my comfort zone, sit in front of a camera a bit more, which I kind of avoided my whole career.
Yeah.
I do a few things here and there, but it was never something I'd jump at every opportunity. I used to turn a lot of this stuff down. I guess with a bit more age and a bit more confidence, I'm a bit happier to do it now. But I tried to turn him down about a week out, and he just said, mate, I've done too much now. And then, as I said earlier, I don't like letting people down. I didn't want to let him down, so it's going well. So.
You're fantastic, mate. And you're just you, mate. To be honest, I haven't heard many. I've just loved the shorts on Instagram. Yeah. You're an absolute king. Like, it's just you being you, and that's all we can be. Like, as soon as we start, and a great lesson for kids than anyone. Like, as soon as you start trying to pretend to be someone else, you're fucked anyway. So, Pig's just on there being you, and you are very knowledgeable, very smart. And he's obviously talking footy. Is that correct? He's talking footy.
We talk footy, yeah. A lot of it ended up just being talking. We talk a bit of shit.
I saw a very funny thing about Belichick yesterday. I like that one. Mick, but hey, if anyone wants to ever be with Hibbo, he's one of the kings. Tell it, youngsters growing up, give them some advice, like mindsets. Not just youngsters, like it could be in your 80s. Listen to this, mindset stuff. Some of Hibbo, you've heard so many of them. Like, don't get bitter, get better. That's really big, because if you're worrying about what other people are doing or stuff out of your control, then you're cooked. You can't worry about anything. Toxicity, anything. So give the kids, not just the kids, okay, trying to get drafted, because you've done it amazingly the hard way, 2 or 3 years out of the system. Anyone in life, some of your mindset and takeaways.
Well, I guess my mindset was at training. I probably don't have any other great quotes for you, but I'll just tell you.
You can't get better than that, mate. Yeah. Don't get bitter, get better.
Yeah, it's a good one. But what I did is I always tried, in this footy sense, I just tried to put myself in game scenario all the time. So, rather than I'd sprint when I kick the ball, because I knew I'm going to have to sprint. Someone's going to be chasing me. I wouldn't, like, every time, even if it was just lane kicking, I'd take off the first few steps. I'd put myself in scenarios I knew I'd find myself in footy. And obviously there's times to rest a little bit more, but I knew every time I had the ball, it was an intent behind it, and I was always thinking, I'm going to find myself in this situation in a game. And I think that held me in good stead. Like, always going, my first 3 steps my hardest, and you said my speed was underrated. I feel like my second to third gear was as good as anyone's, and I think that got me out of a lot of trouble playing footy. But I always surrounded myself with people I knew and not that I was handpicking my mates, but
instinctively,
I gravitated to guys like Joe Watson. When I was at Essendon, because I knew he was up here. And I knew he would, if I'm here, he's going to bring me up a bit higher. Cale Hooker and Michael Hurley, good mates of mine. I gravitated to them because I knew they were going to make me better. One, they're terrific people, but they were going to make me a better person. I really surrounded myself with people that would help my career, but they made me a better person as well. Like, they're just morally sound people, and that's stuff that I think really changed my career, is just making sure I surround myself by those guys. But I think the thing for me as well, I have to enjoy what I'm doing. I remember having a conversation with Brendan Goddard early. He used to say, mate, you can get so much more out of yourself if you do it. And he was intense. And I just remember we had one of those 360 meetings, and I said, mate, I'm never going to be like you. If I was, I would be miserable. And it wasn't having a crack at the way he was doing it. It was, I'm different. I need a balance. I will give you everything I've got on the footy field, but I need to be able to have a laugh and be a bit more jovial and have a beer on the weekend, or go for a nice dinner with. I'm not going to weigh my food, And some people do that. That's all right. And if I was happy to be a 52 skinfold or a 49 skinfold rather than a 38 skinfold, and honestly, that's all my head was worried about, because I think it's a 1%er, but I think my mind was the thing that I'd focus on the most, and I think having a good balance of. But obviously, you got to be in our game. You got to be incredibly fit. But I feel like if I focus so much on all these other little things without the balance of enjoying my life as well, I'm not going to be able to give you what I could have given you on the weekend, which is 100% effort, because I knew at the end of that 100% effort I could relax a little bit. That was kind of what I was always about. And kind of held me in good stead. And I had mates like that as well. But you never push the envelope too far. But I feel like you can go both ways with it.
Well put. Love it. And love that, because I definitely can relate to that. And I try to always educate and help people to live like that if I can. Shane Warne said, good things happen when you're having fun. The great S.K. Warne. Never a wiser word spoken. Like, you must enjoy. We're here for a short time. You must enjoy it, and to be intuitive enough, and again to be self-aware enough to be able to say, that this is not. I can't be like you, BJ. Like, this is me. Really love that, and didn't know that either. But I can imagine you saying that. Love it. What's the future hold? Great man. You've spoken very well about it. But the Fireys, kids, beautiful family.
Yeah, it's just family and. A lot of family time. I think that's another thing about the Fireys, which I'm really excited about, is the 4-on 4-off roster. So that's the balance I'm talking about. Is I've got family balance time. I was labouring for 4 or 5 months before the Fireys. Just recently, I finished last week, and I was working 11-hour days, and that just didn't work for my balance, which I spoke about in my footy, which I needed a bit of a good time and have a laugh, but then play my footy. I need to be able to work and then spend time with my family now, and that's the balance that I want. And being 4-on 4-off is perfect for me. And I'll just back to what I was saying before. Thinking when I talk to kids about what they're like, oh, what's advice you got? I'm like, you need to be able to have fun. The whole time I played footy, I've loved footy, and it's been from when I was 5 years old to when I'm 34. I still love it now. I'm playing at the Port Colts. It's not, the body's not what it used to be, but I still love going out and having a kick. I love the camaraderie. My old man never pushed me to play footy. My old man played footy and encouraged it, but he'd never pushed me to play footy. My mum never pushed me to play footy. They would support me, but it was never anything where I felt like I had to do it. I only did it because I loved it. And I think when you're having fun, you'll be successful if you work hard and you're having fun. I think if you work too hard and you're not having fun, you're not gonna last very long. And for me, I've always had fun playing footy, so it's probably why I was not too bad at it.
Not too bad at it, and played it so well week in, week out, and with a lot of other stuff going on around you. So I'm very proud of you, but also really well put. The kids out there will take hundreds of nuggets out of that, but hopefully adults and people middle-aged, 70s, 80s in work situations, it can translate to anything. What Mick said the whole last hour or so, he's done well. He's given us a lot of his time. Any final words? Big?
No final words. Just wanted to say, mate, I love you. I hadn't seen you for about 10 years, so I love being on the podcast. Hopefully there is some gold nuggets in there.
Lots of nuggets. We'll do a few little things.
It's been good to talk some serious stuff and
It's important,
talk
mate.
about my life and
It's important.
reflect a little bit.
Reflect, mate, because you're only 34, but you've done so much. But it's not easy to talk about yourself, and I get it. And you're very, very humble. And I know you've done a couple of these little pieces, but probably not for an hour and a half. And I really appreciate you sharing so authentically. I knew you would, and I knew you'd say all that stuff. But some of it I didn't even know you were gonna. It was amazing, the stuff that behind closed doors stuff with football. So really good, and kids need to hear it because sometimes it's just so serious and stuffy. So it's really important. This is one of the best telling you. You could do worse than take advice from this bloke on my left. So, and I didn't know my beep test, the PB in 2010.
Yeah. I never. The next best
that.
I did was I got a 13.7 with you, and the next best was a 13.2.
I can't believe you remember that. That is unbelievable. That's 14, 15 years ago,
because
guys.
we did the beep test in the Fireys the other week, and someone said, "Who was your best?" And I said it was 13.7. I remember it was state combine. So.
That's amazing.
Man.
I love you, mate. Hey, you've done something today that's going to make you better tomorrow. Okay, Mick Hibberd is one of the great people and athletes of all time, but more importantly, just one of the great human beings. So thanks for your time, Mick.
Thank you, mate.
I really appreciate you, and hey, what a great day it is to be alive.